The real story of Divine Mercy image. The Divine Mercy image of Jesus is not another ordinary picture of Jesus. It is an image that Jesus himself revealed to Saint Faustina and commanded her to have it painted. Saint Faustina. Sister Faustina was born on August 25, 1905 in Głogowicz, Poland, of a poor and religious family of peasants, the third of 10 children. She was baptized with the name Helena in the parish church of Świnoujście. Helena made her first Holy Communion at the age of 9, which was a very profound moment in her awareness of the presence of the divine guest within her soul. In 1923, a teenager named Helena Kowalska attended a dance in Lodz, Poland. While she danced that evening, a naked Jesus covered in agonizing wounds appeared at her side. "How long will you keep putting me off?" he asked her. The music halted and all the people but Jesus disappeared from sight. That night she left the dance and headed straight to a cathedral, where she prostrated herself before the altar to pray. A voice told her to go to Warsaw and enter a convent. She obeyed, leaving for the city with one dress and no belongings. She entered the congregation of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy on August 1, 1925, and took the name Sister Maria Faustina of the Most Blessed Sacrament. She lived in the congregation for 13 years in several religious houses. She spent time at Krakow, Prague and Vilnius, where she worked as a cook, gardener, and potter. On February 22, 1931, Sunday, in the evening, when I was in my cell, I saw the Lord Jesus clothed in a white garment. One hand was raised in the gesture of blessing, the other was touching the garment at the breast. From beneath the garment, slightly drawn aside at the breast, there were emanating two large rays, one red, the other pale. In silence I kept my gaze fixed on the Lord. My soul was struck with awe, but also with great joy. After a while, Jesus said to me, "Paint an image according to the pattern you see, with the signature, Jesus, I trust in you. I desire that this image be venerated, first in your chapel, and then throughout the world." Understandably, Faustina did not act on this command right away. She didn't know how to paint, and who was she to know that she wasn't delusional? Her Mother Superior seemed to think she was, and so did her confessors. She would not find an outlet for her vision of the painting until 1933, when she moved to live in a Vilnius convent and came under the spiritual direction of an understanding priest named Michał Sopocko. Unlike her past confessors, Sopocko seems to have trusted Faustina's visions and chose to act on them. He arranged a Polish painter named Eugeniusz Kazimierowski. The three of them, the priest, the nun, and the artist, met in an atelier to work on the image, with Sopocko serving as a model and Faustina doing her best to describe her resplendent vision for the men. Sometime later, Saint Faustina's confessor told her to ask the Lord Jesus the meaning of the two rays in the image. Saint Faustina wrote in her notebook, "During prayer I heard these words within me. The two rays denote blood and water. The pale ray stands for the water which makes souls righteous. The red ray stands for the blood which is the life of souls. These two rays issued forth from the very depths of my tender mercy, when my agonized heart was opened by a lance on the cross." On another occasion, Jesus told Saint Faustina, "My gaze from this image is like my gaze from the cross. Mankind will not have peace until it turns with trust to my mercy." Sometime before the first Sunday after Easter, April 1935, Jesus had told her, "I desire that this image be displayed in public on the first Sunday after Easter." That Sunday is the feast of mercy. Through the word incarnate I make known the bottomless depth of my mercy. Saint Faustina later wrote in her diary, strangely, all things came about just as the Lord had requested. In fact, it was on the first Sunday after Easter, April 1935, that the image was publicly honored by crowds of people for the first time. For 3 days it was exposed and received public veneration. During these 3 days, the redemption of the world was being celebrated, marking the 1900 years that have passed since the Passion of our Savior. What does it mean to venerate the image of divine mercy? It means that with great respect and reverence, we honor and give prayerful respect and regard to Jesus portrayed in the painted image of divine mercy. This is not in contrary to the first commandment, "You shall have no other gods before me." Sister Maria Faustina, consumed by tuberculosis and by innumerable sufferings which she accepted as a voluntary sacrifice for sinners, died in Krakow at the age of just 33 on October 5, 1938, with a reputation for spiritual maturity and a mystical union with God. In the years 1965 to 67, the investigative process into her life and heroic virtues was undertaken in Krakow, and in the year 1968, the beatification process was initiated in Rome. The latter came to an end in December 1992. On April 18, 1993, Holy Father John Paul II raised Saint Faustina to the glory of the altars. She was canonized on April 30, 2000 a saint. Saint Maria Faustina's remains rest at the Sanctuary of the Divine Mercy in Krakow Ladziwniki.
In the year 2000, Pope John Paul II canonized Sister Faustina Kowalska. This humble and simple Polish nun was lifted to the altars, becoming the first saint of the new millennium. Her life and witness has reshaped modern history and led millions to discover the power of God's merciful love.
Faustina sometimes reminds me the Old Testament prophet, who's carrying a burden, how to reach the whole humanity with the message of God's mercy. She didn't know how to do it. God had a plan that her mission will continue after her death. She's for me a role model. How can I really trust God in any situation? This is what she kept on doing in her life. She says, I entrust you my ways. I don't have to understand them.
There's a special date that we need to remember about Sister Faustina's life. It's February 22nd, 1931. Sister Faustina was then assigned in Płock. That was where she was a baker's shop assistant. It was the evening, and she sees the Lord Jesus. He is standing in a white garment, one hand raised in blessing and the other pointing to his heart, and there are two rays emanating from within the garment. His foot is stepping forward, and then she hears this voice in her heart, paint an image according to the pattern you see, with the signature, Jesus, I trust in you. I want this to be venerated first in your chapel and then in the entire world.